All right, this is the second video from the second part of Unit 1, which is the order of operations. Now, I'm going to warn you, some of these problems do get complicated. All right. And I'll point out where you probably should pause and try some of these yourself before you watch the video. That certainly is a good idea, and I'll point that out. Let's see, where's that button? Switch camera. There we go. All right, order of operations. You probably remember PEMDAS. All right, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which is a dumb phrase. I don't know, we used to teach that way back. But you probably remember PEMDAS. All right, so what do these letters mean? The letter P stands for parentheses or any grouping symbol. So it's parentheses or any other grouping symbol. But most common is parentheses. All right, and what's the next letter mean? E, that stands for exponents. M and D, those go together. It's multiplication and division. And if you have multiplication and division in the same problem, you don't necessarily do multiplication first. You just do all multiplication and division left to right. Oops, left to right. And then last, A and S, those are grouped together. In fact, I should go up here and put parentheses around those because they are grouped together. AS means addition and subtraction, add and subtraction. And again, addition does not always come before subtraction. It's always done from left to right. Okay, that's the order of operations. Now, I'll tell you, some of these examples get really complicated. All right, first couple aren't that bad, but I looked at the ones on the next page and they're rough. Okay, number 14. All right, let's go through the letters. We don't see any parentheses, so we're good to go there. Do we see any exponents? Yep, we see one right there. 2 to the 5th power. What does 2 to the 5th power means? It means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. If you figure that out, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 again is 32. 2 to the 5th power is 32. So I'm going to replace 2 to the 5th power with 32. That's a division symbol. All right. Now, do we have any multiplication and division? Yes, we do. Any multiplication and division is done from left to right. We have a division right here. What is 32 divided by 4? 32 divided by 4 is 8. Okay. Now we have addition and subtraction in the same problem. We don't necessarily do addition first. You just go left to right. 17 minus 8 is 9. And then 9 plus 6 is 15. Okay. Now I would recommend, before we do the next problem, in pencil, try to do that one yourself. When you got what you think is the answer, then restart the video and see if you got it right. All right. That's a good idea, way to do these. But number 16, there is a grouping symbol that you don't see. This fraction bar right here separates the top from the bottom. And you will actually, when you see a big fraction like this, you're actually going to do that last. You can work on the numerator and the denominator at the same time, but you won't do this until last, because you do the whole top and the whole bottom, then you put them together. So even though that doesn't look like parentheses, a big fraction bar is actually considered to be something called a grouping symbol. So let's look at the top. What do we have on the top? Well, we've got parentheses on the top. We've got two things in the parentheses. Well, do we do the subtraction first or do we do the exponent first? We got to do inside the parentheses. Well, if you look at the order, exponents come before subtraction. So I need to do 7 minus 2 squared is 4. That's a plus 17 right there. Now on the bottom, you can work on the denominator. That's the bottom. At the same time you work on the numerator. Well, what do you do first? I've got addition and I've got multiplication. What comes first, addition or multiplication? Well, multiplication comes first. That's going to be negative 14 plus 10. Now let's go back to the numerator. Again, we can work on the numerator and the denominator at the same time. Let's see, we can do the parentheses now. 7 minus 4, that's 3. You don't need the parentheses anymore after you've done it. 3 plus 17, the bottom is going to be negative 14 plus 10. All right, let's see. 3 plus 17, that's 20. Negative 14 plus 10, that's negative 4. 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. Okay. Now, if you didn't get it right, see if you can figure out where you, what did you do incorrectly, and is it easy to fix, or is something major? If it's something major, you want to ask people around you, or you can ask me if you need figure out what happened. All right. Now, you think those are bad? Look at the ones on the next page. Wow, these are, oh man. You need to make sure you're awake when you do these. These are tough. Again, I'm not going to do them all. We don't have time. Let's look at number 18. Again, you may want to stop the video, try it, and then go back and check the answer. Make use of that pause button from time to time. Now we've got a grouping symbol. Remember, P does not necessarily mean parentheses. It could be any grouping symbol, and absolute value signs are an example of a grouping symbol. So we have to do what's inside. It's just like doing what's inside the parentheses. We have to do all this first. Okay. Now, -7 squared. All right. The negative is not with the 7. All right. I need to put an example out on the board. Somebody remind me, Mr. Brandt, you were going to tell us the difference between a negative number squared where there's parentheses or not. But that -7 squared, you square the 7, that's 49. Then you take the negative of that. So that's -49. 3 squared is 9. And that's still times 4. And I've got all this stuff out here I'm going to worry about later. Divided by 2 times 5. I'm still inside the absolute value. All right. Now I've got addition and I've got multiplication. Multiplication comes before addition. So that's going to be -49 plus 9 times 4 is 36 plus 18 divided by 2 times 5. That's not 2.5. That's 2 times 5. Still need to working inside the absolute value. Almost done. -49 plus 36. That's -13 plus 18 divided by 2 times 5. Finally, I'm ready to take the absolute value. The absolute value of -13 is 13. 13 plus 18 divided by 2 times 5. Now remember, multiplication and division. Multiplication does not always necessarily come first. When you have multiplication and division, it's just left to right. So 18 divided by 2 is 9. I'm running out of room. 13 plus 9, then times 5. 9 times 5 is 45. So 13 plus 45 is 58. Okay. Yeah, that one's tough. It's a good thing I didn't do number 19 because I would have run out of space. All right, number 22. If you remember from a previous problem, this is a grouping symbol. We do that last. Now I've got parentheses and I've got these brackets. Brackets are nothing but fancy parentheses. When you have 2 sets of parentheses, you do the inside parentheses first. So we have to do these parentheses before we do those. Brackets are just another form of parentheses. So that's a 12 bracket 30 minus. Now we need to do what's inside. That's going to be 9 plus 4 squared is 16 all over the absolute value of 10 minus the absolute value of -6 equals, all right, let's see, that's going to be 12 bracket 30 minus. Now I'm ready to do what's in the parentheses now. 9 plus 16 is 25. When you're finished doing those parentheses, you don't need the parentheses anymore. All right, and on the bottom, now let's go ahead and take the absolute value of both of those numbers. You can do the bottom and the top at the same time. Just do this fraction bar last. What's the absolute value of 10 is 10. Subtract, do what's inside. The absolute value -6 is 6. All right, what's next? All right, we got to do these are just like parentheses. Parentheses, 30 minus 25 is 5. All over 10 minus 6. Now do the bottom and the top separately. 12 times 5 finally, that's 60. And 10 minus 6 is 4. 60 divided by 4 is 15. That was rough. I understand. So we're going to do 3 more. Let's see. Do I need to do 3? I think I'm just going to do 24 and 25. I'm not going to do number 28. But number 24, let's see. We've got parentheses. I've got an absolute value. We've got exponent. We've got all kinds of stuff. Well, this fraction bar right here, that's a grouping symbol. When you have a big fraction bar, that's always the last thing you do when you have a big complicated fraction like that. Now, do I have parentheses? Let's look at the top. Do I have parentheses on the top? Yes, I do, right here. 8 minus 11 is negative 3. Minus 3. We can go ahead and take the absolute value of negative 14. What is the absolute value of negative 14? The absolute value of negative 14 is just 14. Now, I'm going to use parentheses here because parentheses can also mean multiplication when it's next to a number like that. Now, the denominator, I've got an exponent and I've got subtraction. Which comes first? The exponent comes first. 2 to the power of 4 is 16. 16 minus 7. Now, on the top, I've got an exponent. I did the parentheses. I still have parentheses, but there's nothing in the parentheses to do. We've already done what's inside the parentheses. Now I've got to do this exponent, all right? And this negative on the outside, do the exponent first, then put that negative back. What's negative 3 cubed? Negative 3 cubed means negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. If you need a calculator, that's fine, but negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 is negative 27. All right, minus 3 times 14. Down the bottom, that's 16 minus 7 still. All right, now that is a double negative. All right, I told you before, when you have absolute value, you got to do the inside of the absolute value first. But here, that is a double negative. Double negative, that's a positive 27. Minus 3 times 14 over 16 minus 7. All right, finally, 27. All right, we've got subtraction. We've got multiplication. What comes first? Multiplication comes first. 27, 3 times 14 is 42. And 16 minus 7. I could have subtracted 16 minus 7. I didn't need to make that a separate step. All right, 27 minus 14, that's negative 15. 16 minus 7 is 9. Now you can reduce negative 15 over 9. That reduces that, you can reduce that by 3. So that's going to be negative 5 over 3. Now, if I was going to do number 25, I can't do that one because I stole space from it. So let's see. I'm going to do one more. Let's do number 28, and that'll be the last one. All right, we have a grouping symbol right here. This is just like a grouping symbol. So when you see PEMDAS, that's under the P, parentheses, that is a grouping symbol. So let's do what's inside. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. This is called the cube root of 8. I'll have to show you where that is on a calculator if you're not sure. All right, now this is not a double negative. With absolute value, you have to do the inside of the absolute value first. What's the absolute value of negative 2? It's 2. All right, so this negative is still there. That's the outside. You do the outside last. All right, plus the cube root of 8. Now, what is the cube root of 8? All right, what number multiplied 3 times gives you 8? It has to be the same number all 3 times. What number does that? Well, the answer is 2. 2 times 2 times 2, multiplied 3 times, it gives you 8. That means the cube root of 8 is 2. So the cube root of 8 is 2. All right, so negative 2 plus 2. Anytime you add a negative number plus the positive of that number, the final solution there, the final answer is 0. Okay. Those were tough. Those were tough. All right, let me switch my camera. You're ready to do the practice problems for absolute value and order of operations. Again, I know those were difficult. I hope you did stop the screen and work those one by one. And then if you made an error, corrected it. But you are ready for the practice, and I'll be working with you soon.